Today's deep dive is based on Dr. G.S. Raju's YouTube channel. And honestly, I want you to buckle up because we are going on a fantastic voyage. And I don't use that term lightly.
That's certainly one way to put it.
No, really. I mean, think about it. It's a journey that thousands of people take every single day. It's a routine part of modern healthcare. But almost none of those people actually see it. They're usually asleep for the whole thing. And very few people truly understand what's happening. We are talking, of course, about the colonoscopy.
It's a medical procedure that is absolutely vital for health, yes. It saves lives by catching things early. But you're right. It's also a journey into a hidden world.
A hidden world, exactly.
A world that most of us carry around inside us our entire lives but never actually look at.
Exactly. And usually when we talk about this stuff, it's all about the prep, which everyone hates, or digestion, or, the unpleasant parts. But our mission today is different. We're going to look at the colon through the eyes of an expert navigator. We're looking at the geography of the gut. We're treating this like we're exploring a cave system or a canyon.
That's a great analogy. Because when a doctor, specifically an endoscopist like Dr. Raju is in there with the scope, they aren't just looking around aimlessly.
Right.
It's not just push the tube to see what happens. They are navigating a very specific terrain. They're looking for landmarks, signposts, and distinct, geological features, if you can call them that, to know exactly where they are.
So set the stage for us. We're looking at a guided tour of the anatomy, right? But it's not the standard top-down view we might expect.
Precisely. It's a tour of the anatomy, but with a twist. We aren't starting at the entrance and going down. The material breaks this down effectively in reverse.
In reverse.
We're starting from the deepest point the scope reaches, the absolute end of the line, and then we're backing our way out toward the exit.
So in the actual procedure, the doctor drives the camera all the way to the end first.
Correct. That's typically how the detailed inspection happens. You navigate all the way in to the deepest point, which can be quite difficult. And then the real work, the examination, looking for polyps, checking the lining, happens as you slowly withdraw the instrument.
You're scanning the walls on the way out.
On the way out, yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. So we've already made the trek in. We are deep inside. Before we turn on the flashlight and look around, let's do a quick tone check. We're talking about the inside of the human body. It's squishy, it's pink, it's a little mysterious. But we aren't here to be grossed out. We are here to spill the tea on what the inside of us actually looks like.
It's fascinating biology. It's a dynamic living environment. So let's treat it with the scientific curiosity it deserves.
Deal. So let's warp instantly to our destination, the deepest point, the goal of the entire mission. We are in the cecum.
The cecum. This is the beginning of the colon.
Right.
Or, from the perspective of the scope, the end of the road. If you're a doctor doing this procedure, reaching the cecum is the primary objective to ensure a complete examination. It's the pouch that connects the large intestine to the small intestine.
So how do we know we're there? It's not like there's a welcome to the cecum sign hanging on the wall.
Right.
It's a long, winding pink tube. How do you know you haven't just stopped halfway?
Well, actually, there kind of is a sign. There's a very specific visual marker that every endoscopist looks for.
What is it?
It's the appendicular orifice.
Which is the door to the appendix.
Essentially, yes. It's the opening of the appendix. And Dr. Raju describes it very specifically. It's not just a hole. It has these nice circular folds wrapping around it.
Oh, okay.
It's a very distinct architectural feature of the colon wall. The muscles of the bowel wall wrap around that opening in a concentric pattern.
So you're driving this camera through the tunnels, you see these circular folds and a little opening, and you say, aha, the appendix, I have arrived.
That's the idea. But here's where it gets interesting from a procedural standpoint. In the medical world, it's not enough to just see it and say, yep, I was there.
You need proof.
You need proof.
Pics or didn't happen.
Literally. The protocol requires rigorous documentation. You have to take a photograph of that orifice.
Wow.
You need that visual evidence in the patient's file to prove the scope made it all the way to the start of the large intestine. It's a quality metric. If you don't have the photo, the exam might be considered incomplete.
I love that. It's like reaching the summit of Everest and taking a selfie, but inside your own gut. Look, here I am at the appendix base camp.
Right.
But here's where the plot thickens. Apparently, it's not always that simple. You can be tricked. The discussion mentions false summits.
This is a really critical point. The colon isn't a straight pipe. It twists and turns. It has bends, which we call flexures.
Okay.
And sometimes a bend in the colon can look deceptively like the end of the colon.
Right. So you hit a wall, you see a pouch, and you think, I'm done.
Exactly. The hepatic flexure, or the splenic flexure, which we'll get to in a minute, can basically trick you. They can mimic the appearance of the cecum if the anatomy is tricky or if the colon is in spasm.
That sounds dangerous. If you stop there, you've missed a huge chunk of the colon.
It is a significant error. There was an anecdote mentioned where someone was convinced they had reached the cecum. They saw what they thought was the end.
Oh, no.
But in reality, they were only at the splenic flexure. They hadn't even crossed the transverse colon yet. They missed practically half the organ.
That's a huge miss. That's like thinking you're in California when you're actually still in Colorado. You've got a long way to go.
It's a significant discrepancy. And that's why the receipt, as you called it, needs a backup. You need a fail-safe method to be absolutely 100% certain you are at the cecum.
You can't just rely on the shape of the pouch.
No. And that fail-safe is the terminal ileum.
Okay, let's unpack this. The terminal ileum. This sounds like an airport terminal. What is it?
So, the cecum is where the large intestine begins. But the large intestine is connected to the small intestine. The terminal ileum is the very end of the small intestine where it dumps into the colon.
So to prove you're at the end of the colon, you actually peek into the small intestine.
Exactly. You pass the scope through the ileocecal valve, the door between the two intestines, and you enter the terminal ileum. You basically leave the room you're supposed to be inspecting just to prove you found the back door.
And what does it look like in there? Is it just more pink tube? Or does the scenery change?
It is distinctively different. This is the key visual. The lining of the small intestine is covered in villi.
Villi, those are the little finger-like things that absorb food.
Yes, tiny microscopic projections. But through the high-definition camera of an endoscope, they give the tissue a specific texture. They give it like velvet or a shag carpet.
A shag carpet, okay.
It looks completely different from the smooth, slick lining of the colon.
So the colon is smooth walls, but the terminal ileum is...
a velvety shag carpet.
Right. And that texture difference is unmistakable.
That's why it's the ultimate proof. If you can photograph the villi, nobody would doubt you reached the cecum. It's the most convincing evidence possible.
You can't fake the shag carpet look.
You cannot. I really like that detail. It's all about texture. You're looking for the carpet. If you see the carpet, you know you've gone far enough.
So the protocol requires, what, 3 specific photos?
Typically, yes. The appendix base showing those circular folds, the ileocecal valve itself, and the terminal ileum showing those villi. That is the gold standard for saying, job done. We reached the destination.
Okay, so we've planted the flag, we've seen the appendix, we've checked the carpet in the attic. Now the journey back begins.
Right.
We are retracting the scope. And this is where we really get to see the landscape of the colon. We're going to see the sites.
We're moving from the cecum outwards.
Yeah.
And the first major landmark we hit as we travel up the ascending colon is the hepatic flexure.
Hepatic refers to the liver, right?
Yes. This is the sharp bend in the colon that sits right underneath the liver. The colon has to make a 90-degree turn here to go across your body.
Now, this part of the anatomy blew my mind. I always think of our organs as these separate, isolated boxes. Here's the liver, here's the colon.
Like they're just packed in there.
Right, packed in peanuts or something. But Dr. Raju points out something incredibly cool here regarding the visuals.
It is a fascinating visual detail. The wall of the colon is strong, but it's thin enough that when you are at the hepatic flexure, you can actually see the liver through the tissue.
You can see the liver through the colon wall, like it's a window.
You can. It's described as a bluish hue. You're inside the gut looking at the pink wall, and suddenly you see this dark bluish shadow pressing against it from the outside. That's the liver.
That is wild. It's like looking through a sheer curtain and seeing the furniture behind it. It really drives home how packed everything is inside us.
It does. It reminds you that these structures are intimate neighbors. The liver is a very blood-rich, dense organ. It sits right there, pressing against the bend of the colon, creating that impression.
So if you're lost and you see that blue shadow, you know exactly where you are. You're at the liver turn.
Exactly.
So we pass the blue shadow of the liver. Now we make the turn into the transverse colon. This is the part that goes across the abdomen, right?
Yes, crossing from the right side of your body to the left. It's like a suspension bridge across the belly. And navigation here is all about shape recognition.
What's the shape we're looking for?
Triangles.
Triangles. Nature usually hates straight lines.
Well, these are triangular folds. The transverse colon is iconic for this shape. The muscle layers of the colon, specifically the tenae coli, are arranged in a way that bunches the tissue into these very distinct three-sided pouches or folds.
So if you see triangles, you know you're crossing the bridge. You're in the transverse section.
Precisely. You follow the triangles. It helps you keep your orientation. If the scope twists and you get disoriented, but you see triangles, you know, okay, I am still in the transverse colon.
You follow them until you hit the next major bend.
The splenic flexure.
Which presumably is near the spleen.
It is tucked right under the spleen on the left side of your body, usually quite high up under the rib cage. And just like with the liver, you get visual clues from the outside organ. You can see the shadow of the spleen pressing in.
But there was another detail about the splenic flexure that I found really funny, but also super logical: the puddle.
Ah, yes, the puddle detail. This is pure physics.
Explain that for us. Why is there a puddle there? Is there a leak in the roof?
No leak. Think about the patient's position. During a colonoscopy, the patient is usually lying on their left side. That's the standard position.
Right.
So gravity does what gravity does. Any fluid in the colon, and there's always some fluid or water the doctor used to rinse the lens, is going to flow downhill.
And since the splenic flexure is on the left,
that's where the fluid gathers. So one of the landmarks the doctor looks for is literally a puddle of fluid pooled at the bend. It's a gravity-based confirmation that you are at the splenic flexure.
that is such a human detail. You're navigating by biology, looking for complex tissues, but also just by simple gravity. Oh, there's a puddle. We must be on the left side.
It connects the anatomy to the practical reality of the procedure. It's not just a diagram in a book. It's a 3D space subject to physics. It has weather.
I love that concept, internal weather. So we've navigated the puddle, we've turned the corner at the spleen, now we're heading down the home stretch, the descending colon.
We're moving down the left side of the body now. And as we transition from the descending colon into the sigmoid colon, the geometry shifts again.
We're losing the triangles.
We are losing the triangles. The sigmoid colon has a very different character. The folds here are described as round.
And the spacing changes too, doesn't it?
It does. They are narrowly interspersed. That means the folds are much closer together. It's a tighter, windier section of the track.
Sigmoid actually means S-shaped, right? So it's curvy and tight.
Exactly. It's often the most challenging part to navigate because of those twists and turns. The scope has to loop through it. But visually, you're looking for those close, round folds.
So it looks more like a ribbed tube or a hose?
Yes, compared to the triangular pouches of the transverse colon. And once we get through that S-curve, we arrive at the rectum. And here, we get introduced to a landmark with a fantastic name, the valves of Houston.
A classic anatomical term. Now, Dr. Raju pointed these out with a bit of local pride, right?
Yes. He notes that since he is based in Houston, he has to mention the valves of Houston. But jokes aside, these are real anatomical structures. They are 3 semilunar folds, transverse folds, inside the rectum.
They sound like something from a rocket ship. Check the valves of Houston before launch.
In a way, they are part of the system. They act as shelves. They help support the weight of fecal matter so that gravity doesn't just, well, force everything out before you're ready.
Useful shelves.
Very useful. But for the endoscopist, they are just another critical landmark to confirm, okay, we have entered the rectum, we are in the upper portion.
And the rectum is divided into an upper and lower portion, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And understanding that distinction is vital for the final maneuver of the procedure. Because we aren't done yet.
Oh.
Most people think once you reach the rectum, you just pull the scope out and go have lunch. But there is one last acrobatic move required.
The final maneuver. This sounds dramatic. We're talking about the U-turn.
The technical term is retroflection. And it's a bit of a yoga move for the scope.
Describe it for us. What is happening here?
So usually the camera is looking forward, or in this case, looking at what it's backing away from. But when you get to the lower rectum, near the exit, there's a problem. You can't easily see the area right around the scope itself.
A blind spot.
Exactly. It's like backing a car out of a garage. You can't see the bumper itself. So to fix this, the doctor pushes the scope in slightly and then aggressively bends the tip all the way back until it forms a J shape or a U shape. The camera is now looking backwards at itself.
It's looking back at the door it just came through.
Yes. It allows the doctor to inspect the lower portion of the rectum and the anal canal from the inside. They're looking at the ceiling they just passed under, so to speak.
And what are they looking for with this U-turn? Why go through the trouble?
This is the prime spot for spotting internal hemorrhoids. You look for the inferior rectal veins draining into them. You really can't assess them properly without this retroflection maneuver.
You'd miss them otherwise.
You'd miss them entirely. So you do the U-turn, you check for hemorrhoids, and then you straighten out and leave.
But even the exit is an examination.
That's right. The final check involves looking at the anal canal itself. You might see something called a hypertrophied anal papilla.
Which is just a fancy way of saying a slightly enlarged bump of tissue near the exit line.
Essentially, yes. It's a benign skin tag or bump. But again, it's part of the thorough documentation of the entire tract. You document everything from the carpet in the attic to the mat at the front door.
Man, what a trip. I mean, let's just recap this journey for a second because the visuals are actually kind of beautiful in a weird way. When you lay it all out, it really is a landscape.
It's a vibrant landscape.
We started deep in the cecum, looking at the circular folds of the appendix. We checked our receipt by looking at the velvet texture, the villi of the small intestine.
We saw the blue light of the liver shining through the wall at the hepatic flexure.
We saw the triangular folds of the transverse colon. We saw the shadow of the spleen and the little gravity puddle at the splenic flexure on the left.
We navigated the tight, round folds of the sigmoid. We passed the valves of Houston shelves.
And finally, we did a U-turn to check the exit. It's amazing how much detail is packed into that one tube.
And I think that's the key takeaway for me. It's easy to think of a colonoscopy as just pushing a tube in a tunnel. But it's a navigation challenge. It requires a profound knowledge of light, shadow, texture, and geometry.
You're reading the terrain.
You are. If you don't know that the liver creates a blue hue, or that the transverse colon has triangles, you might get lost. You might miss a false summit. You have to know the environment to examine it safely and effectively. It's a skill.
It really gives you a new appreciation for the skill involved. It's not just plumbing, it's exploration. It makes me think about how we visualize our own bodies.
Absolutely. And it highlights how our bodies are these incredible, translucent, interconnected systems.
Well, I certainly won't look at my abdomen the same way again. I'm going to be picturing those triangles and that blue hue.
Hopefully not too often, but it's good to know it's there.
That was a look at Dr. G.S. Raju's YouTube channel.
A fascinating guide.
And I want to leave you with this thought. We usually see anatomy in textbooks, static, flat, colored diagrams. But the reality inside you right now is a living landscape. There's weather, like those puddles of fluid. There are landmarks. There are walls so thin that the colors of one organ paint the walls of another. It makes you wonder, how well do we really know the vessel we live in? Thanks for diving in with us.
See you next time.